Alright, so let's take a look at the two pieces of software you'll need. You'll need a copy of Blender installed. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just kind of go to blender.org, click on download up here, and then download the latest version. Next, we're going to install PureRef. This one gets a little bit trickier for students because when you go to the download page, it asks you to pay an amount. So you want to pay close attention to this. You want to go to custom amount here, put a 0 here, and don't forget to press enter. I get a lot of students who message me. They're like, well, even after I entered 0, it still says $20. You have to make sure that you press enter or return on a Mac, and then you could download it for free. All right, let's head over to Blender and take a look at, I've opened PureRef, just briefly um, how I use this. So this is the reference that we're going to be using to model from. It's like a little island house that we're going to be putting. And I chose something that was a little bit more advanced so that we could, get used to a lot of the different features inside of Blender, and just sort of look at, something that might feel a little bit daunting. So this again is Blender here. When you first open it, you get a little splash screen. If you just click with your middle mouse outside of here, you could just kind of rotate it. It'll remove it. For this, when you open PureRef, there's a little like a pin here. You can click on that, and that'll put it always on top. And now, whenever I click off, this will always be there. So we always have our reference to sort of move around as we're modeling. The next thing I do in Blender is up in the right-hand corner, we have our scene collections. I'm going to go ahead and delete the camera and the light. So all that's there is the cube. And I'm going to go ahead and export this cube out so you guys can see how big it is. But I want to export it to a specific folder inside of Unreal so we can constantly update it. So let's go back to Unreal and open up our island project. All right, so here's our island project. What I'm going to do in here is I thought I did this already, but I'm going to go ahead and just on the content folder here, I'm going to right click in here and just make a new folder, and I'm going to call this art. And then inside of this art folder, I'm going to right click and I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call this environment. Now I'm going to right click on this environment folder and I'm going to do show in content browser, or no, I'm sorry, show in finder. You're going to do show and explore if you're on Windows. And it's a little bit easier to do this, believe it or not, inside of Windows, because you could right click and then do send to create desktop shortcut. I'm not on a Windows machine, so you just have to look up how to create a desktop shortcut on your own. On the Mac, it's a little bit different. So here's my environment folder. I want to right click on this and I want to do make alias. And what an alias does is it creates sort of a shortcut folder. So I'm going to drag my shortcut folder and just drop it on the desktop here. And now on my desktop, amongst the other bunches of stuff I have here, I want to go ahead and just look for my environment alias folder. So let me kind of scroll all this out. Forgive the mess. Here's my environment alias. So let me jump back into Blender and export that cube, and we'll see it update inside of here. All right, so here we are. I'm going to go ahead and do File, and then Export, and then FBX. And then on the desktop, I'm going to find my environment alias, and then I'm going to hit Selected Object, because it's selected there. And even though I don't have textures, I generally do copy. This embeds textures into the FBX, and then I hit Export FBX. Now I'm going to pause the video and go back to Unreal so you can take a look at the cube, how we can load in this cube. All right, here we are back in Unreal, and you might say, wait, where did it go? There's nothing here. Down in the corner, it says a change to a sort content file has been detected. Would you like to import it? I'm going to go ahead and hit import. And just click that until it goes through, and then this is going to import our cube. So I'm going to go ahead and hit import here. And now you can see it brought in my cube from Blender. Now I'm going to just drag this somewhere in my scene. Let's see. I'm going to hit 0 to frame that. And I'm just going to scroll in. Maybe I'll select this tree here. Come on. These set of trees? Oh, it's part of that thing. Hit F to focus. Come on, dude. Let me see. There we go. Let me fly in a little bit here. Kind of always get a little bit of... And I think I'm just going to put the house right about here against this hill. So I'm going to grab my cube, and you can see there's essentially our little cube. Now, what I'd like to do a couple things is I'm going to go back and forth and just toggle between Blender and Unreal. And some of the things I'd like to do is move the pivot point. Let me have to focus on that. Again, there we go. So now we're rotating around our cube. I'd also like to change the name from untitled. Let's see if that messes anything up from Blender. So we have our cube here, and I'm going to go ahead and just left click on that, double click it, and just name this house. And let's see, let's go ahead and again, middle mouse kind of moves it around. I'd like to edit this. So go to your object mode here and go down to edit mode. And something else, let's go ahead and do a little bit of setup inside of here. Let's go to edit and then go to preferences here. And then for, let's see, input, or let's see, key mapping. Yeah, let's do key mapping here. Tab for pie menu. Turn that on and then go ahead and click on these three little lines here and hit save preferences and close this out. Now when I hit tab, I can go between my edit mode, my object, my sculpt, all of these here, and it just speeds it up. So with this selected, I'm going to tab, I'm going to go to edit mode here. And what I'd like to do is set the pivot point to the bottom of this cube. So I'm going to press 3 or select face mode and just select that bottom face here. Well, let's go to object mode here, tab object mode. And I'm just going to hit G and then Z and just move it up here, just so that the base of it is sitting on that green line. And then what I want to do is hit Shift S, and I want to do, let's see, cursor to world origin. Now when I select my move here, you can see that here's our pivot point. And let's right click and do set origin, origin to 3D cursor. And now our pivot point is on the bottom of our cube. So now we've named it house. I'm gonna hit S to scale that up. And I want to also make sure that I'm always cleaning my transforms here. So our scale should be 1, 1, 1. So if I hit Control A here and I reset all transforms, and the way I was able to scale that up is I press the S key, and that allows me to scale. I just want this cube to be roughly the size of a house, that house inside of Unreal. So I'm going to hit Control A, all transforms, and that zeroes all these out and cleans up my scale. So let's do File, and then just Export, FBX. And I'm going to select my untitled here, and I'm going to rename this. Actually, we could even make a new model here. Well, we'll just save over this untitled and hit overwrite. And let's go back to Unreal. And it's prompting me in the corner, do you want to import? I'm going to hit import, and I'm going to hit OK. And now you can see it updated the size of that house. So it looks pretty good. Now if I press play to play my game, you can see if I turn around here, that's a pretty good first shot. We have to just move that pivot point down a little bit. So let's hit escape here, select our cube, and just move the pivot point down to the ground. I think that's pretty good. So what we'll do in the next lecture is we're going to use our cube as sort of a height reference, and we're going to start gray boxing out in our environment inside of here. All right, I think that's a good place to stop in this lesson. And what we'll do in the next one is we'll use this as sort of a proxy model for gray boxing out our house.